What your dog thinks when you cry, the truth may surprise you. Have you ever cried in front of your dog? Maybe after a difficult day, maybe after an argument, maybe after receiving bad news, and suddenly, your dog appeared. They walked over quietly, they rested their head on your lap, they licked your hand, they stared into your eyes. Or maybe they simply sat beside you, saying nothing, doing nothing, just staying close. Many dog owners believe this means their dog understands exactly why they're crying. But is that really true? Does your dog know you're sad? Do they understand tears? Do they understand grief? Or are they responding to something completely different? Scientists have spent years studying how dogs react to human emotions, and what they've discovered is fascinating. Because when you cry, your dog may be noticing far more than you realize. And by the end of this video, you may never look at those quiet moments the same way again. Our dog notices before you speak. Most people think communication begins with words. For dogs, it begins long before words, long before you explain what's wrong, long before you tell anyone how you're feeling. Your dog is already watching. And that's because dogs experience the world very differently than we do. Humans rely heavily on language. Dogs rely heavily on observation. They watch your posture. They watch your breathing. They watch your movements. They watch the speed at which you walk through the house. They even notice changes that most people completely overlook. Think about how quickly your dog knows you're about to leave for work. You haven't opened the front door yet. You haven't said goodbye. And yet somehow your dog already knows. Why? Because they noticed dozens of tiny signals. Maybe you picked up your keys. Maybe you put on a different pair of shoes. Maybe your morning routine changed by only a few seconds. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to patterns, and sadness changes those patterns. When people become emotional, their body language changes. Shoulders drop, movements slow down, facial expressions become tense, breathing becomes different. Even the way we sit in a chair changes. Researchers studying dogs have found that dogs are remarkably skilled at reading human body language and facial expressions. In many situations, they respond to our emotions before we ever say a word. That's why so many owners report the same experience. The dog approaches before the tears appear, before the crying begins, before anyone else in the room notices something is wrong. Almost as if the dog sensed it coming. But here's the fascinating part. Your dog may not understand the reason you're upset. They may not know what happened. They may not know who hurt you or why you're sad. What they notice is something much simpler. The person they love is behaving differently. And for a dog, that difference is important. Because whenever something changes inside the social group, paying attention can be very valuable. And that may be the first reason your dog suddenly appears when you're having a difficult day. Do dogs understand human emotions? Here's where things become fascinating, because this is the question most owners really want answered. When your dog sees you crying, do they actually understand what you're feeling? The answer is both yes and no. Scientists do not believe dogs understand sadness the same way humans do. Your dog probably isn't sitting there thinking, my owner is upset because of a difficult life event. That's a very human way of understanding emotions. Dogs don't analyze emotions through stories. They experience them through signals. And that's an important difference. Research has shown that dogs can distinguish between different human facial expressions. They can recognize the difference between happy and angry faces. They respond differently to emotional tones in human voices. And in some studies, dogs even showed signs of stress when listening to recordings of human crying. Think about a young child. A child may not fully understand why an adult is crying, but the child still recognizes that something feels different, something feels wrong. Dogs appear to do something similar. They may not understand the reason, but they notice the emotional change. And over thousands of years living beside humans, dogs have become incredibly skilled at reading us. In some situations, they may notice emotional shifts faster than other people around us. That's why so many owners tell the same story. The dog reacts immediately, before friends notice, before family notices, sometimes before the owner has fully processed their own emotions. Your dog may not understand the story behind your tears, but they absolutely understand that the emotional environment has changed, and that change is often enough to capture their full attention. Why some dogs come closer. One of the most common reactions to human crying is proximity. Your dog comes closer, they sit beside you, lean against your leg, place their head on your lap, or quietly rest at your feet. Why? Many people immediately assume the dog is trying to comfort them, and sometimes it certainly feels that way. But the reality may be even more interesting. Dogs are highly social animals. In social groups, unusual behavior attracts attention. Imagine one member of a wolf pack suddenly behaving differently. The other animals would notice, they would observe, they would investigate. Dogs often respond similarly. When you cry, your normal behavior changes. Your voice changes, your posture changes, your energy changes, and that change naturally attracts your dog's attention. Researchers sometimes refer to this as social referencing. Dogs constantly look to humans for information about the environment. When something unusual happens, many dogs move closer to gather more information. What's happening? Are we safe? Should I be concerned? Should I stay close? And over thousands of years of domestication, dogs that paid attention to human emotions often had advantages. Today, that sensitivity remains, which creates one of the most beautiful parts of the human-dog relationship. Your dog may not fully understand your sadness, but their instinct often tells them to stay connected during emotional moments. And whether they intended to comfort you or not, their presence often does exactly that. Why some dogs walk away. But not every dog responds by coming closer. And this is where many owners become confused. Because while one dog climbs directly into your lap, another dog may quietly leave the room. Some dogs continue sleeping, some return to their bed, some avoid eye contact, some simply watch from a distance. At first glance, that behavior can feel disappointing. It may even feel like the dog doesn't care. But that's usually the wrong conclusion. Think about humans for a moment. When someone we love is upset, we don't all respond the same way. Some people immediately offer a hug, some sit quietly beside us, some give us space, some don't know what to do at all. Dogs can be surprisingly similar. Different dogs have different personalities, different confidence levels, different social experiences, and different coping styles. A highly social golden retriever may immediately seek physical contact. A more independent breed may prefer observation. A shy rescue dog may become uncertain and retreat. A confident family dog may move closer to investigate. The important thing to remember is this: distance does not automatically mean indifference. Many dogs continue monitoring their owner even from another room. They listen. They watch, they pay attention, they're simply responding in a way that feels natural to them. And sometimes the dog lying quietly across the room is noticing just as much as the dog sitting directly beside you. The behavior may look different, but the attention is often still there. And that's why comparing dogs can be misleading, because caring and approaching are not always the same thing. What your dog may actually be feeling. So what is your dog actually experiencing when you cry? The answer may surprise you, because the most likely emotion isn't sadness. It's uncertainty. Remember something important. Dogs are masters of routine. They love predictability. They learn patterns, and they use those patterns to understand the world around them. Every day follows a familiar rhythm. You wake up. You move through the house. You speak in familiar ways. You behave in predictable ways. Then suddenly, something changes. Your voice becomes quieter. Your breathing becomes heavier. Your body language shifts. Tears appear. For your dog, the normal pattern has been interrupted, and that immediately becomes important. Researchers often describe dogs as information gatherers. When something unusual happens, they become observers. That's why so many dogs stare intensely at their owners during emotional moments. They're not necessarily trying to solve the problem. They're collecting information, trying to understand, trying to predict what happens
You coming with
next.
me, buddy?
Should I stay close?
Arf.
Should I move away?
Good boy.
Is everything okay? Some dogs become concerned, some become curious, some become cautious, but almost all become more attentive. And perhaps that's the most accurate way to describe what your dog is doing. Not analyzing your emotional struggle, not understanding every reason behind your tears, simply paying close attention to someone who matters deeply to them.
I'm sorry, boy.
And for a social animal like a dog,
Thanks for being
that
here.
attention can be incredibly powerful. What actually helps? So what should you do when your dog notices you're upset? The first answer is surprisingly simple. Don't force anything. If your dog chooses to come closer, let them. If they place their head on your lap, let them. If they sit quietly beside you, let them. Those small moments of connection are completely natural. But there's something equally important. Don't force comfort if your dog chooses distance. Some owners unintentionally pressure their dog to respond in a certain way. They call the dog over. They try to create an emotional moment. But comfort doesn't always look the same. Every dog has their own way of responding. The second thing that helps is maintaining normal routines.
I'm here
Dogs
for you,
feel safest when
always.
life remains
All right, buddy,
predictable,
time for our walk.
even during emotional moments.
Go on,
Go
let's
for your
sniff.
normal walk. Play your
Beautiful
normal
morning.
game. Follow your normal schedule. Those routines communicate stability, and stability creates security.
Time to eat, buddy.
Third, don't worry that
Boy.
occasional
Does that feel
sadness
good?
will somehow harm your
Look at that
dog.
sunset, isn't it
Many
beautiful?
owners become
Best time of
concerned when their
day.
dog witnesses them
You're such a
crying.
good boy.
But emotions are a normal part of life. Your dog doesn't
You'll be
need a
all right.
perfect owner. Your dog doesn't need constant happiness. What your dog needs is consistency, connection, and trust. The strongest human-dog relationships aren't built because life is always easy. They're built because the connection remains strong during difficult moments too. And perhaps that's the most beautiful part of all. Your dog doesn't need to understand every reason behind your sadness. They don't need to solve your problems. They don't need to fix anything. They simply need to know one thing. You're still their person. And for many dogs, that's enough.